Welcome to day 11 of the Nodevember, and the magic word for today is Hive. This particular piece was heavily inspired by one of my favorite games that I have played the most, Minecraft. So I really like the little bee, and that's a hive themed concept, so I used my procedural cube with enough pixels to kind of get the look that I want. So I kind of know what I want to do, and I'm going to be using mask tools and then use that to drive colors on the pixels. And I thought, there must be an easy way of doing this, and sure enough, you can just store the color to a face using the mask tools that Blender has provided. I added the red icons of B4 so it's a bit easier to know the different types of normal systems. So yeah, I've got a square one and a circle one, and they all have gizmos and they work perfectly well. So using some Boolean math, you can also mix two different masks to bring out, for example, the pupil of the eye with a circle mask onto a square mask. And then I start adding in the stripes. I use different types of square masks together, 3 of them or so I can later randomize them. And I bring in the colors and start thinking about subtle noise texture to bring out some multiplication or color variation during the whole thing. And then I start thinking about the pupils. So since this technique is like super easy and simple, I was just powering through it, and it started to look great, and I was having a really fun time just storing the materials with the selection masks, and I know that this is going to be a lot of fun once this is fully procedural. So from there I use another circle and another type of mixing into the colors to bring out the butt, so I can have a stinger. Also bring out the fluff on the back, so that it makes it a little bit fuzzier using the different types of masks. I make sure they don't cover the eyes as well. So some more Boolean math. As you can see in black and white, there is the mask shapes with the gizmos and everything. And then from there, I start testing a little bit of the seeds and thought about, okay, so how will I drive it all? And I start tuning things. So now I move on to the wing, and I thought, well, the wing could have a similar concept, and I didn't have any reference in mind, so I'm pulling this from my memory. So I decided to just make a wing that pivots on the corner of itself and uses a mirror into itself as well. And then from there, I pass on the materials to the shape of the wing as well. So I'm also stirring the color onto the wing, and my idea wasn't really working, so I did something a bit simpler. A basic grid, position into itself, offset it into a mirror, and then I use it's basically using the same color system. So then I drive the inverse using a subtract of the driver, and then I get the correct resolution and just delete a random index on the faces using the index mask that we have included with B4 thanks to erasers. So now that I have a random seed on the random face that gets deleted onto the wing, I can then start positioning it into place and then use a join into itself and think about the rotation into itself as well, so that I can rotate from its original angle, and we're good to go. So when you're rotating something from a different origin, you have to make sure that you transform and then rotate. So it's like two transform components, so that you have, for example, the ability to rotate from a different origin, because if you just set positions with rotating the vector, the UVs usually are not kept. So I move onwards and start map ranging my concepts and thinking about the attributes of the whole entire idea. I start tuning the pixel sizes of the wing so they kind of more or less match up. I do this by hand because my general pixel system is not 100%, and I'm thinking, should I put in effort to align everything? Well, I just decide to scale the source root of things just a little bit. Still look like pixels, but I am breaking some rules, but at least it should look okay. So now that I have my mirror and the rotation system set up, I can then start using the scene time frame range and bring that into the actual motion of the bee. So now it's moving, and I'm nearly done. I start organizing things, and I start then, okay, getting the colors, pulling them out, getting some systems. I don't have hue saturation or anything like that into my system, so I decide to split the colors and then just tune the hue for the irises separately, and then I combine the hue, saturation and value together again. So when it comes to random seeds, sometimes you need a single value to drive everything, not a whole field, because if you do a random seed on a whole field, every single point on that field would be random, and then it won't work. So if you want a flat, I guess you could say, seed for the whole field, you're going to have to use an attribute statistic or sample the index of a particular point and use that as your entire single field. So that's what I do, and I start to just get that one attribute or seed value and then drive and map certain elements. So I'm using map vectors, map seeds. I start driving the actual combine XYZs of the different motions of the butt, textures, and of the lines. I start to make sure that everything is looking okay. I drive the seed of the eye color, the deleted index of the wings, and then I start thinking about also the seed of the shape of the actual character and the sizes of the indices. I also start to drive a bit other things like, I guess you could say, the stinger. So then I make another procedural geometry. I bring it out, position it into place, join it in. I start to think about how to apply the materials, and I bring out that seed system by using the sample index of the original mesh, which is a plane, so it has 4 indices but I only need 1. So then I could grab like different types of seeds per point and use that to drive 3 or 4 different random seeds with 1 random seed on each point to drive 4 different single values to drive different map ranges. So this particular setup I use in all of my systems from here on out, because I realize it's a pretty solid way to create interesting seeds, and then I use the map ranges on vectors and on values to drive the maximum and minimum variations between different elements of my procedural mesh. So this is the power of proceduralism, and I am very happy with it, and this has been very quick so far. The time flew by, so then I go into the Compositor and I use the system to drive kind of a blue background with a hue shift. I was doing it in yellow, but I didn't like it, so I changed it to blue and yellow, and then I composite the background and do some color balancing, check the animation, I make it rotate around, so using the scene time so it's always constant. I start driving how the floating animation happens using a float curve over time as well, so it's just floating around. The curves are not great. I just saw this technique on Arundel's videos, so I thought, let's give that a try, see how that works. And then I add in a vignette with the new Blender assets, and I throw in some more tuning and adjustments to the seeds to make sure the eyes are always eyes, the pupils are always pupils, and the shape of the bee slightly different and thinner. And then I start animating the seeds and tune more things. Then from there I add in the stinger. And the stinger I also adjust the seed of its length, and it's also driven by a bit of the color. I add in some more REM lights to just fill it in a bit better, and I make sure it all works okay and inherit everything and tidy things up, and I think I'm pretty close. This thing is a bit long, so then I decide to, as you can see, I'm adjusting things to taste, just making sure it's all looking okay, and that the motion and that the seeds are all fine, the wings are fine, that the minimum maximums of the seeds are working fine, and that's when it all compiles together. So now that I've positioned everything together and set my minimum maximum on all my seeds, I've made the pixel light work procedurally from geometry nodes into the shader, I added some motion blur, and this is the end result with the final color balancing. And that was day 11. I hope you find this interesting and useful. I will see you in day 11, and thanks for watching. If you liked it, well, give it a like, give a follow, and share the video, and I will see you in the next one.